What's up, guys? It's Toad back with you for Friday, May 2nd. We started off May with a 3-3 day/night, which was not what I wanted. It was really bullshit. It could have easily been a 5-1 day. It should have been a winning day, and instead it was a slight loss. The first game, we took a loss right away with Pittsburgh. I mean, Paul Skeens did not have a particularly good game. What can you do about that? So that was a loss. I'll accept that one. I will not accept the rest of the losses. We did get a win in there with the under in the first 5 in Arizona and the Mets. That one, pretty easy. I think there were only 2 runs scored. The game was low scoring. The whole game went under as well, I'm pretty sure. Then Minnesota, the Twins were the next one up. That game got to a point where Minnesota, I know they were down 2-0. Hold on, let me get my ring light going on here. Yeah, need a little bit more light there, shining off my bald head. There we go. Minnesota, yeah, they were down 2-0 for like a decent stretch of that game. They did tie it at 2-2. I'm pretty sure they were down 2-0, but it was tied 2-2 in the 8th inning, yet Minnesota had 10 hits in the game compared to Cleveland's 2. If you're out hitting a team 10-2, there's no possible way that game should be tied 2-2. Ridiculous. And then it goes into extra innings. Minnesota scores in the top of the, I forget if it went 10 or 11. Whatever the last inning was, they scored in the top of the inning because, of course, there's a fucking ghost runner still. Abolish the ghost runner. Terrible rule. Then, of course, Minnesota has the lead 3-2. Cleveland, of course, gets the ghost runner, and they score 2 runs and win the game anyway. Minnesota winds up losing 4-3 despite out-hitting Cleveland 13-6 in the game. You get 13 hits, you should not only have 3 runs on the board. 6 hits, you should probably have fewer than 4 runs on the board. Minnesota absolutely was the better team. They had so many chances to score runs and didn't do it. Bullshit. And then we did finish off the baseball slate with another win with Detroit, although it did take a barrage of runs late in the game. But, I mean, that was part of the handicap. It's why I went full game on that one. So the starting pitching matchup didn't quite work out the way that I expected, but it was a close game. And then Detroit, they were down, I think, 2 runs at one point at most. They were able to erase that and just really lay into Anaheim's bullpen, which isn't very good. So Detroit did have the bullpen edge in the game, and that showed up in that game. So Detroit wound up winning 10-4, making me look pretty smart on that one. Smart. And then probably the worst beat of the night was the fucking Clippers. LA Clippers, yeah, I mean, it was one of those games where it's like, I feel like I can do no wrong in the NBA, even though I lost my streak of going 10-0 on NBA sides. This series actually has yielded 2 of my 3 losses in the NBA playoffs. I'm now 10-2 on NBA sides, 10-3 in the NBA playoffs, which is still good, but I was running so hot that it pisses me off, and it pisses me off even more because I should have had the win on the Clippers. Clippers had a really good second half. They were winning the game by double digits late in the 3rd quarter into the 4th quarter. I'm like, all right, this game is over. So I stopped really paying attention to it. I'm like, all right, we're going to get the win here. And meanwhile, we're getting the win on the Detroit Tigers. Oh, and by the way, I forgot. We got a win on the Colorado Avalanche as well. They won 7-4 in regulation, even though they were losing 4-3 at one point. After they blew a 2-0 lead, they blew a 3-2 lead. I'm like, oh my God, they're down 4-3 in the 3rd period, I think. But then they tied it, and I'm like, all right, I think we're going to get this one done. They're at home, and they definitely got it done. I think they probably put an empty netter in for good measure at the end, but they did win in regulation. So that was a win for Colorado there. Anyway, you played Colorado, they won there. Puck line, money line on the whole game, including overtime, or the way that I did it, regulation. Any of those won. Anyway, so it was looking like all 3 of those final plays, Tigers, Avs, and Clippers, they all looked a little bit dicey, but then it looked like all 3 of them were going to come through. I'm like, we're going to have a winning night here. This is sweet. The Clippers were the one that I least expected to lose at that point. Although Detroit had kind of started pulling away. They're up 8-4. I'm like, all right, this is good. Clippers, they're up 14, 16 points with 6 minutes left, 4 minutes left, up double digits. They were still up, I think, 10 with a minute and a half left. I'm like, this is going to come through. They're going to cover. Because at worst, it's going to come down to intentional fouls. And if it does, you know what I always say, 7 is the key number, because that's when you're losing by more than 2 possessions, and that's when you stop intentionally fouling. But what happened? No, that's actually not what happened. Denver actually packed it in and didn't intentionally foul again at the end, and that's why we lost. That plus Kawhi Leonard missed a free throw, and I mean, I'm not going to say he should make every free throw, but he was at the line with the chance to put the Clippers back up 7. I mean, they shouldn't have blown the lead, but of course, you're up 10. I mean, that lead could easily fall to like 7, sure, but it fell to 6. Actually, it fell to 5, so probably shouldn't have happened. But I know that Kawhi Leonard wound up at the free throw line with intentional foul shots with 6 seconds to go. He hit one, missed the second one. And then, of course, when it comes down to just that one free throw there after he's already made the first one, what is he, like 70% at the free throw line? So it's like 70% that you're going to, maybe he's better than that. So it's like more than 70% he's going to hit that one. You're going to be up 7. You're probably going to cover. It shouldn't have even come to that. But he misses the free throw. Actually, it was, I think, more than 6 seconds left because it was 6 seconds left. Denver missed a shot. Then Clippers got the rebound with 6 seconds left, and Denver did not intentionally foul again. And that is also something you do not expect. Down 6, you do expect that one additional intentional foul. Didn't happen. I didn't see how the play played out. I don't know if the Clippers just somehow ran away from all the Nuggets players or were able to throw the ball up in the air, waste time. I don't know what it was, but that really, really pissed me off. Missing, when you're on the right side of 7 on a play, your team is winning by double digits throughout the fourth quarter and all the way into the final minute, and then you don't even cover the 6.5 and you miss by a half point. I'm really pissed about it. And I know that was a game where the Clippers, you're laying a little bit more of a price than you were with the other games, but it's one of these situations where every time this team covers, or every time this team wins, it's pretty likely they're gonna also cover the spread. And it was pretty likely in that game, and it didn't happen. I'm pissed. Even though it was only a slight loss yesterday, I'm not happy about it. Let's go to today. Enough ranting. 7 minutes of ranting. Hopefully the one viewer here enjoyed that. Let's go to the NBA. We have one NBA game because all the other series finished, which, by the way, congratulations to the New York Knicks for finishing that off. Oh, and that pisses me off, too, because I was right about the Knicks, and that was a game that I didn't play. So isn't that just awesome as well? The Knicks will be playing the Celtics, and I will potentially be going to game 1, which I think is not until Monday. So I'm going to see what I can do about that. Anyway, the only series that's still going is Rockets-Warriors. That's the game tonight. That's game 6. We got a situation where the Warriors are up from 3.5 to 5.5 now. But the money looks like it's coming back on the Rockets. 53% of tickets on the Warriors. 69% of the cash coming in on the Rockets. I do not agree with it. I like the Warriors in this game, and I do like the under as well. Total now from 206 to 205, 85% of the tickets and only 69% of the cash, or excuse me, 73% of the cash on the over. So less of the cash on the over. So the market is indicating on the Rockets and the under. I like the Warriors and the under in this game. I think the Warriors will close out the series, and actually, that is going to be my play in this game. I'm going to be on Golden State -5, even though I know, again, it's kind of like last night where you're laying one extra point there. You can find 5s, 5.5s around right now. I found a 5 at maybe MGM. I don't know. One of the mass books had 5, so was able to find that one. I disagree with where the cash percentage is on this one. I do agree with the under. This has been mostly an under series. I mean, you do have 2 really good defensive teams. You're probably going to get defensive intensity in a game 6 here, where it's a closeout game. Maybe less so than you would in like a game 5 in an even series or a game 7. But maybe one issue that I have with the total is that the other games, like the early games in the series, had a higher total, although the books realized that was too high and had to like kind of drop it down, I'm pretty sure. But I'm a little bit worried that maybe they've dropped the total a little bit too much. You're not getting as much value on it. But I believe the total was kind of right around this same number in the games in Golden State. So the total's not totally out of whack. So it basically is right around where it should be. So it's a pretty good total line. Actually, I'm wrong. I think even in the Houston games, I thought it was a little bit higher, but I guess it was not. So the total is basically right where it's been throughout all these games. And the majority of the games have gone under the total. And also, the prior game went way over the total. Houston just won 131 to 115, 116. Very eerily similar to the Denver final score over the Clippers in the previous game at Denver. Houston did that as well. Very similar score, which you don't usually see Houston putting up a point total like that, which was kind of crazy. Although I did lean to Houston in that game. I thought it was a good spot for Houston. They were able to get that one done and send it back to Golden State. But now they're having to go to the Pacific Coast again, out on the road. Golden State, I believe, has won both games at home, right? Because I won on them in the first game, and they were able to pull away. Second game they won, and they missed covering on the 3.5 by a half point. They did cover the 2.5. I think it was down to 2.5 at one point. So Golden State has won both other games at this venue. So I think that's one thing that is good here. Again, if you like the under, I'm sorry, my mind's all over the place. If you do like the under, one good thing about the under, which I do like it, is that the last game was the highest scoring game of this entire series. It was way, way over the total. Just kind of an outlier because both these teams do actually play good defense. I think it was just that the game was so out of hand that some of the backups came in. So it was really kind of an outlier situation there. So the under does make sense as well in this game, which I'm tempted to play it, but I don't know if I'm going to quite get there with it. I just think the line is just the books know what they're doing. They put the line right where it should be, even though, of course, I'm laying a bad number with Golden State, so what the fuck am I talking about? But I just think the side is stronger, because if you look at what happened, Golden State, they're coming off a blowout, and of course, the last time they came off a loss, their only other loss in the series, what did they do? They came back home and they won the game by margin, similar to the Clippers last night, which I know I lost, basically because I laid a line that was a little bit high. I know, I understand that, but they should have covered that. I think Golden State's going to do it here, man. It's a very similar spot to that one. And if you look at this game against Houston, the previous game, of course, because they're all against Houston. I mean, Houston was running away with this game, man. So Golden State, they're going to have all of the adjustments to make here, man. If you look at the stats in this game, Houston shot 55.1 from the field, 55.1%, 43.3% from three. And Houston, who has usually had an edge on the inside, they're usually the big rebounding team. They're the better inside team. They actually lost the rebounding battle in this game and still won going away. So that kind of tells me something. Golden State actually kind of picked up the slack and played well inside. It's just, these are crazy outlier shooting percentages. Houston is not going to shoot this well again, especially not on the road. I don't think they're going to hit 43.3% from three either. Golden State in that game shot only 41.7% from the field, which is quite low. So I think they're going to improve. So I think there's a lot of progression that we're going to see here after another. Again, that was just an outlier score. Not only that, but Golden State might be a little bit more rested because they rested their starters later in the game when the game was out of hand. And they actually came back. I mean, they were losing by way more than this. They were getting absolutely annihilated at the half. They were down 76 to, 49? So the game was already completely over. And Golden State actually made the game look better than it was, and it was still a blowout. So Golden State, I mean, embarrassing loss. You know they're going to put a way better performance together in this game. And they did this with all their backups. That's the other thing. So both teams had their backups in, but if you look at the the stat sheet here, the box score, Golden State's best two scorers, which we know are Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, they obviously didn't play a full slate of minutes, so that's actually good because, as you can see, Houston actually kind of kept their guys in longer because, of course, they wanted to make sure they won the game. So Houston's starters played way more minutes, so their starters are actually going to be more tired coming into this game. Most of their starters played at least 30 minutes or right around 30, whereas Golden State, all of their starters were rested late in the game. I mean, look at that. None of their starters played more than 25 minutes in the game. Curry, Butler, I mean, they both got taken out of the game early, but their shooting performances were also terrible. Curry was 4 for 12, Butler 2 for 10. You know that's not going to happen again either. You know you're going to get a way better performance out of both of those guys as well. So all of that is an advantage to Golden State as well. So for all those reasons, yeah, I'm going to lay the points with Golden State. I think the side is actually better than the total in this one. I think Golden State's going to win the game. You could look for like a money line maybe if you don't want to lay what's definitely a little bit of an inflated price here because the books understand the zigzag. They know. But in this case, I don't think it's up that much. I mean, it's only up like 1 point from, which I know every point matters, but it was like Golden State was a 4-point favorite in the last home game, and they actually didn't cover. So Golden State, the last time they were on this floor, they won, but they didn't have a particularly great game. So I'm going to do it, even though I know Golden State didn't do, like, they weren't able to, like, really pull away in either of those home games. I do understand that, even though they did get it done in the first game. I expect them to do it in this game. Yeah, I think they're going to close it out. So even though, yes, I know you do have a Houston Rockets team that is getting points, facing elimination, but I just think it's going to happen here. And I do think the historical trends are on the Golden State side here, where teams that are up 3-2, trying to close the game out at home, they show up and they get it done more often than they don't, because they really don't want to have to go back out on the road for a game 7. I mean, so this basically is the series, which is also why you still want to kind of look to an under, because you know you're going to get both teams showing up for that reason. So, but I'll be on Golden State. Over in hockey, one game. Congratulations, by the way, to the Edmonton Oilers, which I did have right in my bracket. They won 4 straight games to end that series. I told you they would win yesterday. They did. I told you I didn't love Ottawa either, and Toronto got it done. Congratulations to Toronto, even though I don't like them. I don't like Edmonton. Congratulations to Vegas beating the overrated Minnesota Wild and finally taking care of that series. And then Colorado-Dallas, we're going to see. That will have a lot of impact on my bracket because I do have Colorado in the finals. So we will see. But tonight, Winnipeg at St. Louis. Winnipeg retook the lead 3-2. Every game in this series has been won by the home team. But St. Louis was an underdog in their first 2 home games, and now they're a favorite here. But I still don't know that I would disagree with St. Louis here, man, just because this has been such a home-centric series. I think St. Louis probably gets it done and sends this to a game 7. St. Louis up from -105 to -117. 88% of the cash coming in on them, 56% of tickets on Winnipeg. I wouldn't disagree with what the market is doing in this one. I do think St. Louis probably does get it done, and it's still in that price range where you're not really laying that much of a price on them. So, you know, I wouldn't beat you up over playing St. Louis in this game. You're still basically playing almost a pick-em price on them. This has been a tough series throughout, man. So St. Louis, they looked pretty good in their home games, of course, and they actually played pretty competitively in pretty much all the road games as well. And at home, they actually won both games in blowouts, although I did point out that those were a little bit misleading. Winnipeg was able to get the job done back at home, which I liked that one. I'm kind of mad that I didn't play it because that was one of those spots where you're coming back home, you're the way better home team off of 2 embarrassing losses. But now we get to go back out to St. Louis. I do think St. Louis will get it done. That would be my opinion there, even though it has been a tough series for them, and they've been putting in a lot of effort here. So it's possible they run out of steam, but I do think they're going to be able to get it done in that game. Major League Baseball, I got 4 plays. A couple of them are like very Toad-esque plays, especially one of them. I have 2 unders, and that's one of those plays is that. But then I am also on 2 games that are like basically road favorites that are very square, but I just think it's the right matchup for it. So let's get into it, man. Baseball, I'm going to try to run through all this really fast. Washington at Cincinnati. Washington, both teams played yesterday, and Washington just beat Philadelphia despite having Brad Lord on the mound, which I don't know how they got it done with that guy on the mound, even though Taijuan Walker is not very good. He does well against Washington, but Washington was still able to get the job done. Much lower scoring game than I thought. Cincinnati won yesterday in an easy blowout win over St. Louis. So Washington in a little bit of a bad spot for that reason. I think they're in a little bit of a letdown spot. Plus travel, whereas Cincinnati's staying at home. So Cincinnati has some edges. And they also have their ace on the mound in Hunter Green, which is why Cincinnati's a decent-sized favorite here. But I would probably slightly lean to the Cincinnati side. And the under may also make sense in this game with Mitchell Parker going for Washington. He's actually been pretty good this season as well. And Cincinnati has almost never seen him before. So he has a little bit of an extra edge based on that. As I always say, you have a young pitcher who's pretty good. If the opposing lineup hasn't seen him before, he's got a little bit of an edge. But I would dial that back a little bit just because, well, first of all, I wouldn't want to play an under full game in almost any circumstance with Washington's awful bullpen, worst bullpen in the majors, as I've shown you, by about 2 runs on their ERA per game, which is insane, like a 7+ bullpen ERA. So if you wanted to play the under, you'd have to do it first 5 innings. I wouldn't disagree with it, but Mitchell Parker having to play in Cincinnati, which is a very hitter-friendly park, gives me a little bit of hesitation there. And the fact that Mitchell Parker, even though his numbers are definitely good, not putting a lot of men on base, he's not been very hittable at all. The one issue is that he doesn't strike out a lot of guys, so his strikeout walk rate is actually bad. Strikeout walk ratio, 20-16. So I know he's not really a strikeout pitcher, but still, that's a little bit alarming. He gets a lot of guys to like hit into outs, basically. He does get a lot of ground balls. So I do have some hesitation there, so I'll stay away from that game. And, of course, the pregame here still has it as an undecided pitcher for Washington, and not much to see as far as that goes with the market there. But, yeah, that's the breakdown of that game. San Diego didn't play yesterday while Pittsburgh had that tough game losing to the Cubs. So San Diego is rested, so they have a little bit of an edge for that reason. Dylan Cease on the mound with terrible numbers this season, but you got to think he's going to get better, man, because he is way, way better than he's pitched so far, and he still has one really, really bad game at that A's pitcher-friendly park, really skewing his results. Although he's coming off not a very good performance against Tampa Bay, where he walked 4 guys, but I kind of expect him to start doing better because he's just a much better pitcher than this, man. So I expect him to do a little bit better. Mitch Keller on the other side is not that bad either, though. So I think both pitchers actually have pretty decent numbers. Dylan Cease, I mean, his numbers are okay. Not like terrific, but decent enough against Pittsburgh. Mitch Keller, on the other hand, I mean, he's not doing too badly for Pittsburgh either. His whip is a little higher than I would like, but he does pretty well against San Diego, if I remember correctly. I'm trying to remember everything I looked at this morning. Yeah, his numbers in the matchup are actually slightly better. So even though San Diego has the rest edge, I do think Dylan Cease should start getting better at some point. I think the way to look at this game might also be the under, because you do have a really good bullpen with San Diego. They're at least rested, even though Pittsburgh isn't. The starting pitching matchup might get you enough into this game that the under does make sense. Or you could, if you really want to, take the bullpens out of the equation. But because San Diego's is so good, I think it might make sense to leave them in. The money is definitely coming in on the unders. The totals flip from 8 juice to the over to 8 juice to the under. 71% of tickets on the over, 51% of cash on the under. I agree with the under. I think that might be the best way to play that. Arizona, Philadelphia both played yesterday. Arizona's traveling off of beating the Mets, which is a pretty big win, although Philadelphia also going to be a big series as well for them. Philadelphia staying at home, though, so Philadelphia does have kind of a similar edge to what I just talked about with Cincinnati. And they have a really good pitcher on the mound with Luzardo. So I wouldn't really want to fade Luzardo. Merrill Kelly, I mean, he's decent as well. He's an experienced veteran pitcher. He's got a pretty good whip this year. So not a whole lot to take away from that. It could be a situation where you want to look to the under. I mean, his numbers against Philly are okay, although his OPS is a little bit high because a couple of the guys have hit him fairly hard, but he hasn't put that many men on base against him. Luzardo, of course, he's really turning into basically he's becoming the Phillies' ace at this point almost. So look out Zach Wheeler there. And Luzardo, against Arizona, though, he's actually struggled in 27 career at-bats against them. 333 average and a slightly high 733 OPS. So those are my hesitations there, although Luzardo is getting much, much better in his career. His career trajectory is really, really good right now. So I wouldn't really want to fade Luzardo, even though his matchup numbers don't look good against Arizona. So I just have to stay away. I mean, I can't play the Philadelphia side because his matchup numbers are bad, and Philadelphia is way too public. So I will just stay away from that one as well. Kansas City, Baltimore. I went through these games. I'm like, am I going to have a play today? Michael Wacha and Dean Kremer. I mean, Dean Kremer, you're going to want to look to fade him in some way if he's on the hill, basically. Baltimore didn't play yesterday. Kansas City did, and they had an easy win over Tampa, so they didn't really use a whole lot of their bullpen. But Michael Wacha, bad numbers against Baltimore, man. I just looked him up. 288 average, not terrible, but 920 OPS, pretty bad. And this is a player prop potential game right here. Mountcastle's 10 for 22 off him with 3 home runs. Mullins 9 for 23 with 2 home runs. So if you want to look for player props, and Urias is 5 for 16 with a home run off him. So those 3 guys, definitely player prop potential there. But Wacha overall, not very good numbers against Baltimore. And then, of course, Dean Creamer, I mean, I don't think there's anything to like about this guy. He sucks, and his numbers are just abysmal this year, even though you probably expect him to get better than this. But, of course, I always make fun of him on this show, man. He might be the pitcher that I shit on the most on this show, and it doesn't get any better when I bet on him once this year and lost. But against Kansas City, I don't think his numbers are any good either. Well, an 814 OPS is no good because he's allowed 4 home runs to them. 258 average is okay, but 7 walks, 6 strikeouts is terrible. So probably the way that I would look to play that game would be the over. But Michael Wacha is a guy who just kind of comes in and he seems to just kind of always limit the damage, so I'd be a little bit worried about that. You could look to play the Kansas City side because Creamer is so bad, and that is the way the money's coming in. 58% of tickets, 75% of the cash coming in a Wacha, but Wacha has the worst matchup numbers against the Baltimore offense, and Kansas City played yesterday, and Baltimore didn't, and I think Baltimore's just staying at home. So I don't love all that, although Baltimore is coming off a series where they beat the Yankees. So Baltimore is kind of in a letdown spot coming off of beating the Yankees. So there's a lot going on in this game. Just conflicting signs or conflicting factors in this game, which is why I don't want to play the game. But the money, Baltimore's dropped from minus 143 to minus 128. 56% tickets, 73% of the cash now coming in at Kansas City. And the total's down from 9 to 9.5. Juice to the under. So it's gone up slightly. But we'll stay away from that one as well. Next game, Tampa and the New York Yankees. I'm going to go under in this game, under 8.5. I don't know if I went under in this. I think I did, actually. I think I played a first 5 inning under with this is the same pitching matchup that we just saw, so I know there's one issue with that is that both these pitchers were just seen by the opposing lineups like last week, basically. So I know that's a little bit of a concern that when a lineup has just seen that pitcher, they're more used to that pitcher, and they're probably going to hit a little bit better. I know, but the matchup numbers just indicate to me that I think this is still an underplay. Both of these pitchers are actually pretty good, so even though there is a familiarity there, I think both pitchers are good enough that they can just overcome that. The last game, I believe, was a 4-0 win for the Yankees with the same pitching matchup. I believe I had the under in the first 5 innings, and that one and won. And I'm going to go right back to the well here and do it again, man. The Yankees were off yesterday. Tampa lost pretty badly, but they didn't use that much of their bullpen, even though Boz didn't do well. Tampa didn't have to use that many of their arms out of their bullpen, and they didn't use any of their really good relievers because they were getting blown out in the game, so they didn't have to use any of their better bullpen relievers. So I think full game is actually fine in this one as we get a rested Yankees bullpen. Tampa's best relievers are rested. Both teams actually are pretty good bullpen-wise in general, especially the Yankees. And then for the starting pitching matchup, you got Pepio on the mound. I know his numbers aren't great this year, 1.38 whip, 4.24 ERA, but he is better, in my opinion, than those numbers look. 34-12 strikeout walk ratio is decent. Walks a little bit high, but overall, I mean, nothing alarming really about his numbers overall, although the whip is too high. He's got to stop putting that many men on base, but it's kind of spread out between the hits and the walks. There's not really like a major issue there. He pitched well against the Yankees last time out. 7-1 strikeout walk ratio, and he allowed 2 home runs and still only gave up 3 earned runs in the game. So he was limiting the damage, which is good. And of course, against the Yankees, he does have pretty good stats against them. 7 at bats, or 47 at bats, and have 7 hits off him, though 2 home runs, which were both in that most recent game. 13-2 strikeout walk ratio, 149 average against, 503 OPS. So Pepio has done really well against this Yankees lineup, even though they are good. And I know we're in the Bronx, which is a hitter-friendly park, but up in the Northeast right now, it's not particularly warm out. The weather's a little bit iffy, although it is 78, I guess, at game time in this game. But it does look like the weather's going to be a bit iffy with potential thunderstorms, which can kind of limit maybe some of the hitting. I don't even know if maybe there's a potential of a rain out here. But then also we got Max Fried on the other hand. And I think if one of these pitchers has a real dominant performance, I think you should see the under come in here. Max Fried pitching really well for the Yankees so far. 33-9 strikeout walk ratio is crazy. Way fewer than 1 hit per inning allowed. Went 7 2/3 shutout ball in that game against Tampa, even though he only had 2 strikeouts to 2 walks. Still had a really good performance in that one. 1.19 ERA, 1.04 whip. Yeah, obviously you got to expect that to regress a little bit, but he is pitching well. And against Tampa, his numbers are insane. In 39 at-bats, Tampa only has 3 hits off him. No extra base hits, 7-4 strikeout walk ratio. But in 39 at-bats, an 0.77 average and 240 OPS. That is crazy. So both pitchers have good matchup sets, especially Fried. Obviously, you're laying a huge price to play on the Yankees side here if you really wanted to do that. So instead, I'm going to say the pitching matchup is pretty good for this and go under the total in that one. The lean would still be to the Yankees side, but I just can't do it. And you know me, I don't like laying -1.5 of the home team very often, even though sometimes I will do it. But again, because if they're winning, they don't get that extra at bat at the end. Cleveland and Toronto. Cleveland played into extra innings yesterday against Minnesota, like I said. So they used most of their best bullpen arms. So their bullpen is a little bit taxed coming into this game. Toronto just won a series against the Red Sox, which was a big series win, but they used a lot less of their relief staff. So Cleveland's bullpen not in good shape coming into this game against Toronto here. And Logan Allen is on the hill, which is not really that good for Cleveland either. 1.56 whip, definitely bad. Indicative that his 4.21 ERA should be a little bit worse. He is coming off getting smacked by the Red Sox. I think he may struggle in this game, man. I mean, the best couple of lineups he faced, Red Sox and San Diego, he did pretty poorly in those 2 games. I know Toronto hasn't been able to hit, though, even though they have some good hitters on their team. They just have not coalesced. But against Toronto, his numbers aren't great. 29 at-bats, 276 average, 812 OPS. None of that is particularly good. And Chris Bassett on the mound for Toronto, much better numbers, 2.62 ERA, 1.17 whip. So he's pitching well this season. He's a veteran, a lot of experience. He knows what he's doing. Ridiculous 39-7 strikeout walk ratios. He is pitching really, really well. So I do like Toronto in this game. So why am I not playing it? I mean, the money's coming in on them. The market agrees with me. They're up from -126 to -140. Cleveland had to play into extra innings. I understand all that. Cleveland's bullpen definitely taxed coming into this one. 57% of tickets, 94% of the cash. Coming in on Toronto, I agree with all that. It's just the issue is I don't love the matchup for Bassett, even though his numbers have been way better. He is definitely the better pitcher over Logan Allen. I am the much more experienced pitcher. But Cleveland, they've done all right against him in 30 at-bats. They do have 3 home runs off him, although it's mostly Carlos Santana doing the damage. And he is an old guy at this point, so maybe some of those at-bats are a long time ago. I'm kind of tempted to play Toronto now that I think about it, because if you take Santana out, the rest of these guys don't do that much damage. But he does have 3 walks against him, though, and so does Ramirez. 7-7 strikeout walk ratio is pretty ugly. 267 average isn't that bad, but 1,039 OPS is pretty brutal. I guess I won't do it, but I would lean to Toronto in that game. Minnesota, Boston. I would have more hesitations about this one, about fading the extra inning team in this one, which is Minnesota, as they went into extra innings. They had to use a lot of their relief staff as well, which is not good. Boston, bad series for Boston, man. They could have won all 3 games against Toronto. Their bullpen imploded, blowing a 6-0 lead in the second game and blowing a 2-0 lead last night. So I don't like it. I don't like the results there, that series, obviously, being a Red Sox fan. But the Red Sox saved basically their entire pen because Houck actually pitches well against Toronto, and he actually did well in that game yesterday. So the Red Sox only used 1 relief pitcher. So the Red Sox have the much, much more rested bullpen here. So that is an advantage to the Red Sox. But Joe Ryan is the better pitcher over Brian Bayo, man. So I don't know. Joe Ryan's got good numbers on the season, of course. He is a good pitcher. 3.18 ERA, 0.91 whip. Very good against the Red Sox. 60 at-bats. He's done pretty well. 250 average. 747 OPS. A little bit high, but not terrible. So Ryan, I mean, he does look like he probably has the starting pitching edge. So the Red Sox may have the bullpen edge just because they're way more rested. But and the Red Sox probably have the better bats, but they don't have the better of the starting pitching matchup. Brian Bayo's 3.27 ERA looks good, but a 1.45 whip is certainly not good. 6-7 walk to strikeout ratio is bad. 7-6 strikeout walk ratio, that's not good. He's not pitching very well, man, to be honest, although he's limited the damage at least, only allowing 4 earned runs, like I said. But you can't walk this many guys and expect to not give up more runs, so it's a little bit of an issue there for Bayo. He's going to have to start turning it around, man, on his career, which he may do. He's still young at 25, but he has done well against Minnesota, though. 16 at-bats, 7-1 strikeout-walk ratio, 188 average against him at 548 OPS. So maybe the starting pitching matchup isn't as much of a mismatch as it looks with Ryan against Bayo. Ryan is definitely the more trustworthy pitcher. But the Red Sox probably would be the way I would lean here because Minnesota, again, they burned out their bullpen yesterday. Starting pitching matchup might not be as lopsided as it looks, but the money is coming in on Minnesota as Boston looks like they're a dreaded public home underdog here with 58% of the tickets, only 51% of the cash, and Minnesota flipping from plus 109 to minus 108. So when you have an anti-public road underdog flipping to a favorite there, that is usually a pretty strong market indicator on that road team. So I won't do it. I'll stay away. A's in Miami, though. I'm going to take a shot. This is the very Toad-esque play I was talking about. I'm going to go under 9 in this one, even though usually if a book throws up a 9, they're kind of telling you, we expect this to be a high-scoring game. But I'm not so sure about that. We have two basically mystery pitchers, but I'm going to take the shot on this being an under, man, even though the A's do hit pretty well right now. Miami, not so much. But the A's are bringing up Gunnar Hoglund, who is one of the best pitching prospects I think that we've seen come up this season so far. Now, the one concern about Hoglund is that, yes, he is making his major league debut, which a lot of times I think is a good thing because, of course, the starting lineup on the other side has never seen him before. So when you have a young guy, which is the case with both of these pitchers, by the way, who has good stuff, who has never been seen before by the opposing hitters, that is a little bit of an edge to that starter. But with Hoglund, he did have to have, I think, Tommy John surgery. So he is having a little bit of a late start to his career here at 25 years old. But he's still really, really young. So I like this. And for Hoglund, if you look at his numbers, man, he's doing well. When he's pitched at AAA, his ERA has been I think pretty much in the 2s in AAA, which is really good. Pretty nice strikeout rate, not a high walk rate. All of his stuff looks pretty good. He's got a pretty wide arsenal. He's got a fastball that he can throw mid to even upper 90s, I think, on his fastball. He does have a moving fastball as well, like a two-seamer that I think is pretty nasty. And I think he has some nasty breaking stuff as well with a sweeper and a curve. And I think he does have a changeup as well. So kind of a typical 5-pitch arsenal you would see, but I like it, man. So I think he may have a little bit of an upper hand against this Miami offense that isn't that good. A's have been able to hit a little bit, but against Valente Bayozo, I'm not so sure, man. Bayozo, I mean, he's a guy that I like to play on a little bit last year, although last year the results were hit or miss, really. No pun intended, or maybe pun intended, with a whip that was definitely too high. He walked too many guys. I mean, that's his issue. His strikeout rate wasn't high either, but yeah, I mean, he was walking a lot of guys, so he's got to get those walk numbers down. He's not really a strikeout pitcher, but he is a guy that can come in and fool you. So that is something that I like, and he was limiting the damage, even though he was putting a lot of guys on base, and he's not even a strikeout pitcher. He still limited the damage in 13 starts, had a 3.67 ERA, so that is something. And this year, he seems to be kind of on the same trajectory, same track, where his whip is way too high, which I know that really, really worries me because his ERA is misleading right now because his whip is so high. You can't put this many men on base, man, and get away with it. I know. But I think he's going to improve a little bit. One of his starts was against the Mets, which is a pretty difficult lineup to face. And against the A's, I believe only one of their hitters has ever faced him before. So essentially both pitchers, and I think he might be 0 for 1 or something, whatever it is, or 1 for 2. I forget what it is. But basically you have two young pitchers who have never been seen before by the opposing hitters. So I think this total is actually too high. We're not talking about a total that's at Oakland, man, or at Sacramento, excuse me. We're not in that hitter-friendly ballpark there. We're in Miami this time. So we're going to go under the total in that one. Next up, now we get into my square plays. I'm going to lay the run line with the LA Dodgers. So this one, man, I understand it's square as hell. Dodgers, everybody knows they're one of the best teams in baseball. The Braves, their record sucks, and I know the Braves are actually really good at home. Most of their wins have come at home. I get it. But I just think this is not a good spot for the Braves, man, and I don't think it's the right pitching matchup. So that's why I'm doing this. Even though yeah, the Dodgers are way too public. I understand that. It's definitely square. 96% of the tickets on the Dodgers, only 88% of the cash, but the money line has moved up on them from minus 155 to minus 164. So maybe it's not as crazy as it seems. Maybe we do have some professional alignment with the squares in this one, which still usually you don't want to be on that side because the books need that side to lose. But I just don't know that it's going to happen in this one, man. I think this is a big mismatch and a bad situation as Atlanta was just out in Arizona and then Colorado, and they had a successful road trip. They went 4-2. They did lose the last game, though, to Colorado, so now they're returning home with some kind of bad momentum. But you know what I always say, when a team returns home from a road trip like this, an East Coast team that just went out west and they're returning home from elevation like that, you tend to be a little bit distracted, even though I know it's the Dodgers coming in, so you're going to be less distracted when it is the Dodgers, sure. You're going to want to step up when the Dodgers are coming to town, but still, it is still a return home spot. Usually, that becomes a distraction because you got to get back to family life. You have stuff to do back at home, so I think it's still a little bit of an issue here. And for the Dodgers, they're starting a road trip, man. So it's a little bit better for them. Neither team played yesterday, I don't believe. So both teams are off, although like I talked about, when a team is returning home from a road trip in baseball and they have that day off, sometimes it exacerbates the situation because they kind of get readjusted to being back home and kind of settle back in and lose a little bit more focus. And yeah, I know the Dodgers have put up ridiculous scoring totals here. 8, 9, 7, 15, and 12 in their last 5 games. But I think what that means is that, yeah, they're coming off winning 5 games in a row against bad teams, but that doesn't mean they're going to have their momentum. Momentum carries, man, when you're going on the road like this. So I think that's good, actually. So they're going to have that winning momentum. They're not going to be overly confident, I don't think, after beating a couple of bad teams like that. And it means their hitting is really finding its groove after their hitting wasn't really doing that well for a while. Their hitting is in good form right now, and I think they have the momentum going out on the road. So I actually do like this. And then, of course, I always look at the starting pitching matchup and probably weigh it too heavily, but I think you got a lot of advantages here, man. I think the Dodgers have the better bullpen. And, I mean, what else can we say about this? They have their best starting pitcher on the mound here in Yamamoto because they've had so many pitching injuries. But Yamamoto is the guy, man. A 1 whip and a 1.06 ERA. Yeah. I mean, his walk number a little bit high, but he's really allowing very few hits. 23 in 34 innings. 43 strikeouts. Very high strikeout rate as well. So even though his walk rate's a little bit high, walked 4 guys in his last game, but he had walked 1 over the previous 13 innings against the Cubs and on the road against Texas. So I think he is going to bounce back and do a little bit better. And that looked like kind of a bad performance from him. Kind of inefficient with his pitches, but his defense didn't help him as he allowed 2 unearned runs in that game, only 1 earned run. So it wasn't really his fault. And against the Braves, they haven't seen that much of him. And in 15 at-bats, they only have 2 hits off him. They got a 133 average and 435 OPS. So Yamamoto, not only is he really good, but he is good against the Braves. Then you got Grant Holmes pitching for the Braves. Very mediocre pitcher, man. 4.5 ERA, 1.25 whip. He doesn't go that deep into a lot of games, even though they seem to be letting his pitch count go a little bit higher. But a lot of times he's pretty inefficient. He's gone 5 2/3 or less in every start except for 1 that was against Toronto. Coming off not a great start against Arizona, but that's a tough pitching park. So you might say, well, maybe he'll bounce back, but I don't know, man. I mean, he put way too many men on base there. Pretty bad start, so I don't know. He gave up 3 home runs, 3 walks. I don't know if maybe he's just not in great form, but against the Dodgers, it's not going to get that much easier for him as the Dodgers hit really well against him. 20 at-bats, not a huge sample size, but 3 strikeouts to 6 walks. That's not good. 350 average and 1,050 OPS. So I think the Dodgers have every edge in this game, man. They have the starting pitching edge. They have a situational edge. I think they have the better bullpen. I think they have the better offense. So Dodgers, and the way to get the price down, because the Dodgers are too high of a favorite, of course. They're like a minus 170 money line favorite. Although if you did want to lay that, I probably wouldn't tell you not to do it. But getting the price down to basically a spread bet, you can lay the run line. Of course, because they're on the road, they do get, you are assured that they get to hit in the 9th inning as well. So we will actually lay the run line, as square as that is, with the Dodgers there. Hi, Anna. You have a great day as well. Thanks for hanging out. We get you in the morning a lot. Let me see. Let's try to get through this quickly. Houston, Chicago. I probably lean to Houston in this game. I mean, Houston didn't play yesterday. The White Sox had a nice 8-0 blowout win over Milwaukee, which even though I thought the Chicago starting pitching matchup was terrible for them with Burke against Patrick, I told you to be a little bit concerned about it because Milwaukee was just too high a favorite on the road, and man, Chicago, the White Sox blew them out. So it could be a little bit of a letdown for the White Sox now. Houston didn't play yesterday. Framber Valdez pitching fairly well, does have fairly good numbers against the White Sox, holding him a 269 average, 634 OPS, 78 at bats, and that's all pretty decent for Valdez. And then Jonathan Cannon pitching, certainly the inferior of the two pitchers, but he has done actually pretty well against Houston in a limited sample, 26 at bats, only 3 hits allowed for a 115 average and 379 OPS. So, I mean, the under might even actually make sense in that game, even though I probably still I would prefer the Houston side maybe, but you're laying a huge price for Houston on the road. And it does look like the money is actually coming in on the under with 75% of the tickets and only 55% of the cash on the over. Total dropping from 7.5 to 7.5, juice to the under. The Houston side, you're laying a huge price, minus 227 now on the road. 90% of tickets, 98% of the cash. So I do agree with both of those plays. Houston playing them in some way on the side and the under, but I'll just stay away. I mean, probably you could look at the Chicago White Sox team total under is maybe the way I would look, which is, I mean, you're probably playing under 2.5 though, which gets a little bit dicey. And then under full game, I do agree with as well. Texas also played yesterday and used some of their bullpen against the A's in a fairly close game. Seattle had the day off. But Seattle, I mean, they might be feeling a little bit overconfident right now because they're pretty hot right now. But still, like I said, momentum does carry. So that momentum of those 4 straight wins might carry out on the road with them. So not a bad spot for Seattle. They have rest, while Texas does not. Brian Wu was on the mound. He's a good pitcher. Lower than a 1 whip. He always limits the runners on the base pass, man. He's not a huge strikeout guy, but even so, 30-7 strikeout walk ratio is really good as well. He's pitching well all around, man. And against Texas, he's done decently, although not as great as you would want. 72 at bats, but he's allowed 4 home runs to them, which is kind of skewing the OPS. 250 average is pretty good, but 734 OPS. A little bit on the higher side there, gives me a little bit of pause. And then Jack Leiter on the other side, starting to pitch pretty well, man. He's doing well this season so far. Although he's not going that many innings yet. Didn't go that many innings in his worst start of the season where he walked 4 guys. So maybe a little bit of a red flag there. But against Seattle, Seattle has 5 hits in 20 at-bats off, and they do have 2 home runs, but it's both Julio Rodriguez. So again, if you want to look to a hitter prop there, Julio Rodriguez hits Leiter really well, and none of their other guys really do. But overall, 250 average, allowed an 898 OPS. So because of those home runs, his numbers are a little bit skewed as well because of that. I still would probably not disagree with an under here. Total down from 8.5 to 8, juice to the under. So that has moved towards the under, although 50% of tickets on the under and 62% of the cash on the over. I would probably still agree with the under and with the Seattle side. They're up from minus 105 to minus 114. Look like kind of an anti-public road favorite, which is kind of crazy. 76% of tickets, 98% of the cash coming in on Texas. But not a play for me. And the last play that I have is also a square play. But I just don't see how this isn't a mismatch, man. I'm going to play on the Chicago Cubs. Both teams played yesterday. I know Milwaukee's going to be angry after getting shut out 8-0 to the White Sox. I understand. Could be a little bit of a bounce back spot, but baseball is a matchup sport, man. So I don't fully agree with it. I think Chicago, even though their bullpen isn't great, Milwaukee's bullpen is even worse. So I don't think Milwaukee has a bullpen edge here, really, even though both teams did have to use their bullpens yesterday, too. So I don't think there's really an edge there. I think Chicago has the better offense slightly as well. Both teams can hit. Both teams don't have great bullpens, so I think Chicago does have the edge in both categories. So then you look to the starting pitching matchup here, and I think Chicago has a big edge in the starting pitching department with Ben Brown going. He's been a mixed bag, mostly bad. I know, 1.89 whip, 6.04 ERA, but I think this is misleading enough that we actually get some value on the Cubs here, even though the public looks like they are coming in on the Cubs. But I actually think there might be value because I think Ben Brown is actually a better way to look in this game than what those numbers would suggest. Yeah, his numbers are terrible, but 31 strikeouts in 25 and a third innings is pretty good, man. Yeah, his walk number's high, 14, but he can blow guys away, so he does have good stuff. He needs to be less hittable and less wild. I think he can do it. In his last start, he gave up a lot of runs, I know, and a lot of hits. Way too hittable against Philadelphia. They're a good offense, though. The two starts prior to that, he only gave up one earned run across 10 innings against Arizona and the Dodgers, and those are two good hitting lineups as well. Did walk too many guys against Arizona. Still limited the damage, though, but his strikeout walk ratio in that Philly game was 5-1. So that's not that bad either. And then here's where we get to the crux of the matter here, though, where I think he's better than his numbers would tell you right now. But he's got 16 at-bats against Milwaukee, and they're 0 for 16 off him with 9 strikeouts and 2 walks. So he has dominated this Milwaukee lineup. They have a 0 average off him, obviously, and a 111 OPS. I understand it's a small sample size, but I think he's got like some good numbers. Again, he's got the good matchup numbers here, man. And Quinn Priester, people are going to look at him and be like, oh, he's got a 3.79 ERA going up against Ben Brown with a 6 ERA. Obviously, you want to look to Quinn Priester. He's the way better starter, right? I don't think so at all. His whip is terrible, almost as bad as Ben Brown's. His 1.63 whip. But his strikeout numbers are way worse. He's only got 13 strikeouts to 12 walks. So Ben Brown, he has the way better stuff, man. Quinn Priester, not a very good pitcher, and he's starting to kind of give way to what he actually is here with 7 walks over the last 9 innings over those last 2 starts. 7 runs allowed as well, 12 hits. Not good. Not good stuff there. And against the Cubs, yeah, the Cubs lineup takes care of him, even though I know we're looking at small sample sizes, 13 at-bats. But they got 5 hits off him, a home run, 2 walks, no strikeouts, 385 average, and 1,082 OPS. So I think this is a mismatch, and it's in the opposite direction from what the ERAs would tell you. I think the Cubs actually have the edge here. Unfortunately, they are very public, 89% of tickets, only 76% of the cash. So I am worried. I am on, a couple of public sides here, but the money line is actually moving up on both of these. The Dodgers and the Cubs up slightly from -109 to -114. So I'm doing it. It's a cheap price to lay. Give me the Cubs, and those are all my plays. And then to finish it off, Mets St. Louis. This is an interesting one. Mets, they played yesterday, lost to Arizona. St. Louis, I believe, played as well, right? Yeah, they were at Cincinnati. They got blown out. So both teams coming off losses. St. Louis is returning home, but they only had a 1-series road trip to Cincinnati. So not a long road trip for St. Louis, so I don't think that's really going to throw them off at all. Clay Holmes pitching for the Mets. His ERA is good, 2.64, but his whip a little bit higher than I would like to see. And he's not a young pitcher, so I don't really understand how he's doing what he is doing, but his strikeout rate is really high, so he is doing pretty well here, man. And against St. Louis, good numbers in 32 at-bats, 219 average, 536 OPS, so he's actually done well. Whereas Sonny Gray, even though he's a really good pitcher, 1 whip, 3.6 ERA, really, really good stuff. Even though he's getting up there in age, he's really getting it done still. But against the Mets, he actually struggles quite a bit in 100 at-bats, 290 average, 897 OPS. So I don't love that. So the matchup numbers indicate to me to look towards the Mets, and that is where the money is actually coming in. And the Mets actually a road favorite against Sonny Gray. Although we know the Mets, they have a really good bullpen, and they have probably the offensive edge here too. So the Mets do have those edges as well, but I think they probably do have the starting pitching edge here as well. And St. Louis is still returning home from a road trip, even though a very short road trip. But I do agree, lean to the Mets, 71% of tickets, 97% of the cash coming in on them. Detroit against Anaheim. Both teams played yesterday, but I think you're just paying too much of a price for Detroit, man. You got Skubal on the mound. Everybody knows it was Skubal. You're going to pay a price for him. I mean, he's an ace, really, really good pitcher. But against Anaheim, not great. In 44 at-bats, he's actually allowed a 386 average and 1,233 OPS. Soleil has 2 home runs against him in 4 at-bats. Tim Anderson, 12 for 23 with 1 home run, 6 doubles off him. So a couple of potential player props there. They actually hit Skubal pretty well. So Anaheim's one of the few teams that actually doesn't do bad against him. And Jose Soriano, on the other hand, not the better pitcher, but against Detroit, they've barely seen him, and they're 0 for 3 off him with 2 strikeouts. So I think the starting pitching matchup actually is a little bit less lopsided than you would think in that game. So I do think you're laying way too much of a price with Detroit there, and they're very public. 94% of tickets, 99% of the cash, up from minus 168 to minus 178 on them. And then Colorado, San Francisco. I mean, obviously San Francisco is going to be a huge favorite here. Robbie Ray, even though he's not good, his numbers against Colorado are good. Senzatello, one of the worst starting pitchers in baseball. Obviously, I mean, his numbers aren't good against San Francisco either. But that's going to do it for me. My plays one more time are, what do we got? Golden State -5 in basketball. Under 8.5 in Tampa and Yankees. Under 9, A's, Miami. LA Dodgers, Los Angeles Dodgers, -1.5 run line. Cubs, -115. That's going to do it. Tower Gang Tone on Twitter. Patreon.com/TowerGang to support the most offensive podcast on the planet. And get your Bohemian Grove tickets, which I think today they go on sale to the general public as well. And there aren't that many tickets left, so do it. Come join us in Florida at the end of June for some fun, some ridiculousness. That's going to do it, man. Happy Friday. Let's start the weekend right. And I may come back and do a little bit of a Kentucky Derby video like I did last year. I just kind of gave my thoughts on it. I didn't do well in the Kentucky Derby, though. The horse that I was kind of pinning everything on last year didn't work out. But we can talk about it tonight. Maybe I'll come back and do that. So Kentucky Derby tomorrow, man. But peace out for now.